So let's just get into it. No need to wait. I am viral for a couple of reasons. The first one being the theme of this video, and that is my visit to the White House. We're going to talk about how I got there, why I was there, and what I was trying to accomplish, and what's going to happen after that. Let me move the camera a little bit. I'm gonna look a little bit too human on the start of this video. You know, creators typically we want to have a clean background, and that looks a little bit too human for my liking. You know, I just got in from McDonald's not too long ago. I don't like how that backdrop was looking. Okay, as you notice, my microphone actually stopped working, so the powers that be feels like they just don't want me to drop this video. Don't know why. The second reason I'm getting a lot of hate, well, I think it's pretty obvious at this point. I said I support Jews. People have spiraled out because in 2024, without a doubt, I was probably one of the main people ruffling up the feathers. You know, I made the Tunnels documentary, which never spoke badly about anyone. For some reason, people assume so, but that's just propaganda. Never spoke badly about anyone, not one time. Nonetheless, times have changed. What brought me here? Well, I spoke a little bit about it on my Twitter space last night, and I'm going to go into great detail tonight with Fresh on the 305 podcast, the show that we host twice a week. It'll be live on my X, it'll be on YouTube and everywhere else. But we'll go into that. But let me first get a few things out there before I start this video, before I start this whole YouTube. The White House never contacted me to push promotion for any country, any type of people ever. I did that on my own volition. I put that on my mother grave. Nobody called me and gave me a call and said, okay, if you want more opportunities, you got to do that. That's just delusional thinking. But at the same time, me being a journalist, me being someone that pays attention to trends, I can't fault anyone for believing that because, okay, if you see a coincidence, you call it out. Now, you might question, why did you make these posts right after the White House visit? Now, I can say this. It caused me to do some deep diving. I'm thinking to myself, man, I said all these bad things about maybe this group of people or said all these bad things about Israel, etc. And I still got an opportunity at the White House. I still got an opportunity at Turning Point USA. All of these places that are pro-Israel as hell. I'm sorry, it's given me a different outlook because it's like, man, I've been able to do certain things. Yeah, I got demonetized. Yeah. And like I said, I don't think it was fair because I never spoke badly. Like what is deemed bad isn't really bad. But if you give any criticism, you know, you get that label. So I was given a label for just criticizing the same way I criticize anyone else. Nonetheless, I was given opportunity after opportunity, you know, and that's a lot of trust. For them to bring me all the way at the White House, regardless of my past, yeah, it caused me to look at it a little bit different. And I really want to save the real reason, because it's so hard not to bring it up right here. But I promised that I'll save it for later, you know, later on today. It'll be out at like 9 o'clock, 9 Eastern time. But I'll give you a hint. Man, it's really because of the same people that are anti-Semitic, whatever that is. Those same people, they are completely against blacks right now. And I know that black people have been given propaganda to make whites feel bad. And this is just a reaction. It's a reaction from the things that have been happening. That I accept. But you cannot expect for people to be your soldiers if you spit in their face in front of the whole world. You can't expect the people to fight for you. You can't. You're going to lose your support. I have real big conservatives, real famous conservatives that have reached out to me and said, man, we're losing a lot of black support over some of our recent trends. You got to understand that these people have convinced us to hate each other. To me, 1964 reminds me of 2024. Although the Civil Rights Act was passed in 64, 2024, Trump won. I see similarities there because black people, quote unquote, were free. And what we see the year following is racial division like never before in the partnership of Jewish people and black Americans. And that is what we're starting to see again because they've pushed people away. You know, it's kind of hard for me to actually fight for a movement if that same movement is calling me tribalistic if I disagree once. If I stood against George Floyd, if I stood against Breonna Taylor, if I stood against Mike Brown, if I stood against Jordan Neely, if I stood against almost any Negro that popped up, how am I tribal if I say, well, that's not cool to cuss out that little baby? You know, I can't see a child stealing my wallet and I throw out a racial slur. Free speech, I'm all for it. But hate speech exists for a reason. There's limitations for a reason. You calling that a fruitcake? If you're a white parent and you're okay with your child being called a racial slur, shit, you better than me. Because I believe in free speech, but at the same time, there is a thing as hate speech. So are we begging for the freedom of hatred? That's the confusion part of it. Okay, some people might say hate speech is propaganda. That's okay. I'm okay with letting people believe what they want to believe. But what really disturbs me is when people evolve and they change over time, okay, it's natural. I hope people can see it's not a shilly approach. Everything I do is completely natural. I do the news for a living. I know what the hell comes behind saying what you stand with and what you stand against. Does this mean I'm a Zionist now? Fuck no. I don't care about none of that shit. I am a nationalist. I'm just not against it. I can understand it. I understand where we are in America right now. As soon as these people, if they get to accomplish what they want to with the Jews, that blacks are next. Unfortunately, that's where it is. So the question is to a white supremacist, where are blacks to go? When you're done with Jews, can you really look a black person in the eyes and say that they're not the next target? That's not emotionally thinking. That's thinking for the survival of my entire DNA. The same thing that white people are doing. The same reason why you have white supremacists telling people to not interracially mix. I can agree. But can we not agree that we're the next target? So I have to think for the betterment of myself for once in my lifetime. I've been a conservative since I was 6. And I ain't gonna lie, it didn't feel that good for having people calling me tribal. And I know this isn't the conservative party. I'm speaking on supremacists specifically. So any liberal that want to pick this up, you're being disingenuous. It's only a select few, but they're louder than everyone else. I mean, come on. Not every black is a criminal, but let's be real. Those niggas that's ignorant, they louder than anyone that isn't. It's unfortunate that the select few speak for the many. We can't change that. We live in this reality. I just hate that it's unfortunately ignored when it comes to a certain group of people. Now, let's get into the White House. I had to advocate for this because I don't want people to think for one moment that our president of the United States is telling influencers, you got to bend the knee to Israel to come talk to me in the White House. Fuck no. I will never, ever bend the knee to a country to get an opportunity in my own land. I'm still down Lucre, and I always will be. I think some people got me misconstrued. So you might have to review my space that I hosted last night to maybe get a better understanding. Everything I do, you know, I got big for the bait and switch. Everything I do have a purpose. You might not understand it now, but you will. You will. Everyone always do. Do you guys remember when I went back and forth with community notes and I was saying Muslim this, Muslim that? Yeah, Muslims hated me for about 4 days until people found out who I was talking about. Then a certain other group hated me. You see, sometimes my content, it takes a little bit of time to digest. If you don't get it yet, that's fine. But we'll all get some understanding very soon. I assure you that. Now, for the topic at hand, I went to the White House to request for the arrest of Barack Hussein Obama and Hillary Rodham Clinton.
Thank you for giving me the honor to be able to ask a question and provide some transparency for the American people. Speaking of, I wanted to reference the election integrity. A lot of people in America are questioning if there's any possibility that we could see further.
Now, I'll tell you what also is pretty cool about this. When I was given this opportunity, I went up there and I spoke with the White House officials. We were all there. We were actually in the same building that Joe Biden was in, the new office of the White House, the president, that weird building that Joe Biden is in when he won the election, and they had him in that strange building. It's very cool to be there, sitting in history with Jack Posobiec. Cool dude, man. Jack Posobiec, talking with him kind of, you know, made me lean a little bit towards thinking about considering being Catholic. I know you guys seen that. Now, that's the narrative right there, that I went to the White House and the White House made me want to be Catholic, not support Jews. I'm being real. That White House visit really made me consider being a Catholic, and I still am, because, you know, I spoke with him about my faith, how I want more serious connection with God, and I just kind of, you know, I have a gripe with how Baptist religion, where I start from, it doesn't seem like it takes them that serious. You're not with tradition and things like that, and we don't really know our history, but a lot of Catholics do, and I admired that. But beside the point, they gave me freedom to ask whatever I want. You know, they told us all, they got us in that room and they said, hey, you can ask whatever you want. I would kind of like if you tell me, so she could get prepared and have the data, but said, if you don't want to tell me, you don't have to. And I respect that out of the Trump administration. And I'll be honest, I'm transparent. I told them what I was going to ask. And that's cool itself. Because like they said, they held to their promise that they won't limit my speech on anything I want to ask. So I asked that question. Why? Because I feel like it's so easy for us to get caught up in the next news piece, the next story, that it's easy for us to forget how we got here. And I know for a fact Barack Obama ran a shadow government. And I know for a fact Hillary Clinton was right behind it. I know these people. It's only so much I can say on YouTube, but there's a reason why I mention these two names. We need accountability in the country. We need to let these future criminals know that you cannot commit treason and run a shadow government for 8-10 years and no one do a damn thing about it. That's why I really feel like there needs to be, and I understand there's new leaders. If you guys don't understand the shadow governments, etc., there's new leaders now. But if we don't chastise the old ones, what is going to prevent the new ones from going 10 times harder? We need to put the fear in the hearts of evil.
The investigations for anyone that could have violated our election integrity rights. And more importantly, so is there any possibility for names such as Barack Hussein Obama, Hillary Rodham Clinton to ever just possibly get investigated for any of these, questions from the American people, any of the wrongdoings they might have done?
Well, it's refreshing to actually hear a question on election integrity because the legacy media would never ask such a question. They're so out of touch with where the American people are on this issue. And Americans, you're absolutely right, want to have trust in our electoral system. Without free and fair elections, you cannot have a free and fair country. And President Trump has absolutely been a leader on this effort, talking about the irregularities we've seen in our elections, holding Democrats accountable for allowing illegal immigrants to participate in our elections. And he actually signed a recent executive order to protect the integrity of our elections. It will strengthen voter citizenship verification laws. It also directs the Attorney General to enter information sharing agreements with state election officials to identify cases.
I want to also address this because we behind the scenes now. I can address a couple of things that I've seen. Yeah, she didn't necessarily answer my question. I'm fully aware of that, but she gave me ability to ask it, and I was told like this stuff is referred to the president. So President Trump did get this. President Trump did see this. So that's what it really was for. It really wasn't a question for her to actually have an answer to. It was really a question that I would like for the president to get. I mean, she can't really necessarily decide what President Trump is going to do. And the gravity of my question, we also got to expect for her not to reveal, hell yes, we're trying to arrest Barack Hussein Obama and Hillary Clinton. That's a couple of things that, they would explain to me in the back end. That's all I'm going to say. But yeah, I've seen people talk about, oh, she didn't answer your question.
Of election fraud. So that correspondence between the federal government and the Attorney General with state and local officials has never happened before. It will allow the federal government to more easily identify these cases of fraud and then prosecute those who violate our election laws. And it is, again, appalling that any politician, regardless of party, could be against ensuring only American citizens can vote in American elections. How could anyone ever be against ensuring Americans need to have proof of identification to participate in our elections? You see the Democrats falling over themselves, trying to say this is somehow voter suppression. Absolutely not. We are trying to ensure that every American citizen, their vote actually counts and is not being outweighed by fraudulent votes and fraudulent ballots that we know have been cast in previous elections. So the president's taking this very seriously. He signed an extremely strong executive order directing action from the AG and the Department of Homeland Security as well to clean up our elections. And we expect Congress to do more on this front as well.
Now, my brother David Harris Jr. actually had an input that came in right after me that further drilled home. And I don't know if a lot of people seen this part. A lot of people seen my clip. Shout out to David Harris Jr., absolute GOAT, good friend of mine. But he went ahead and drilled it home even more. So let's go ahead and get into it.
On that question, and again, Caroline, thank you so much for hosting this. Really appreciate the opportunity to come in here and ask questions of you guys, and appreciate the president giving us some time of yours as well. On a follow-up on Dom's question, I still have a ton of my audience that is still asking questions about Hillary Rodham Clinton and the fact that it came out that her and the DNC funded the Steele dossier, which then led to a Crossfire Hurricane and all the FISA abuses that went against President Trump leading up to the 2020 election. Is there, you don't have to spill the beans, but is there something? Is there somebody still looking at it? We just want to know that it's not dead in the water, that Hillary's not just off scot-free after knowing what her and the DNC did leading up to the 2020 election.
It's a great question. Absolutely understand and agree with why you're asking it, but
she doesn't look. Hey guys, chat. Listen, I brought in a good question. It's even a question that my brother followed up on. So it's not like I was reaching, but you could tell she like, man, y'all still asking about Hillary? Come on, man. I got to tell y'all behind the corners about this.
The president weigh in on that front. I haven't discussed it with him, to be honest with you, but certainly we can ask him and get back to you. Eric.
See that whole get back to you thing. That's not for the public eyes, but you know, it's just a funny time that we live in, man. Shout out to everybody. Thank you for your outpouring support, and then thank you for the negative attention that I've gotten to, because it allows me to look within and understand how sensitive people are at every side. You know, the same people that were supporting me are attacking me this year. It's a beautiful thing, and I think it's very poetic. Honestly, I gain a lot of data from this. Just human trends, you know, and I've been studying it a lot. It's quite interesting just to see how fragile we all really are inside. But I think that the episode tonight on the 305 is going to shock you. Look out for it on the 305 YouTube. Even look out for it on X, because I'm going to be live, and we'll go ahead and put this thing in the grave. Shout out to all my Muslims. Shout out to all my Jews. Shout out to all my Christians, of course. Shout out to all my Hindus. Taoism, whatever. And I can't shout out you atheists. Y'all got to get with the program. You got to believe in something, bro. But I guess shout out to the atheists too, if we want to be centrist. But I do hope that y'all seek some type of God. All right. See you guys in a few hours. Appreciate you. Sorry for, being sporadic, being here, being there, not dropping like 4 videos a day like I used to. But since moving to Miami, it's been very busy. I keep complaining about that every video. I don't know if I'm sending it home enough that I've been busy as crap. But we'll get into it. I'll get back in the flow and start dropping some good content. Hopefully this was somewhat entertaining. Okay. See you guys on the next one. See you guys a little bit later tonight.